No, I
Yeah.
literally had a terrible night's sleep because I was so amped from the game.
So for you, you threw me off my game because I was planning on attacking the guy that won,
Yeah.
Hakan.
Yeah.
He was in my
Okay.
crosshairs because I had two secret objectives that were both action phase secret objectives.
Interesting.
That one, it was involved winning combat in somebody's home system, which guess what? His was two systems away.
Right.
And he had practically nothing on it. And the other one was like, kill the last of an enemy's fighters using any fighter barrage. And those were going to be 2 points in the action phase. And I was planning on going in and doing that until you attacked me. And then I was like, well, crap, if I go in and do that, I'll lose a home system. I won't be able to score the objectives.
Right.
So wait, can you score? You can still score secret
Secrets.
objectives. So I should have just done it. But in any case, yeah, that threw me off a little bit. But there are other things that I realized I could have done that would have been incredibly useful.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was afraid I wanted Mechatol, and I was afraid you were going to keep reinforcing it. So,
and I thought about doing that too after the fact. I was like, I should have done that because like if I had put one PDS on there and then just kept orbital dropping people, it would have been like impossible to take.
Yes, no, I absolutely, that's where Soul.
So now I want to play Soul again. I was like, man, I want to play Soul again because they really do like, and like the fact that you can deploy, and I forgot the fact that at the beginning of every ground combat, you can add an extra guy. So let's say you have a system with one soldier. At anybody who comes down or tries to take it, you add another one. So I was like, man, I didn't use them well, basically, is what I'm saying.
They're a hard faction. I mean, I really, really like Soul because they're kind of meat and potatoes. Like you do simple things, but those simple things are really, really fun to do. Like just orbital drop or like building a huge carrier full of like infantry and fighters and just
landing it.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And they have very cool, simple strategies.
Yes, I know, and I didn't do any of them. I played it too. I kind of psyched myself out with them, and all I needed to do was just make a ton of ground troops and just deployed ground troops and use that game. Like I also thought about why didn't I didn't do any yellow tech, so I thought like maybe Scanlink drone network would have been hot. Like I'm thinking outside the box though. Like nobody ever thinks like. So I'm like, okay, so if I had Scanlink drone network, wouldn't I have been able to funnel troops into Mechatol?
No, you're talking about transit diodes.
Transit diodes. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Transit diodes is awesome. Scanlink.
That's what I meant. Scanlink is the other one. Yeah.
Scanlink's the one where you explore planets, and I got it. And I thought, oh, this will be very useful. I can just sit here and keep exploring my planets. And I honestly used it once, and I was like,
but like transit diodes, you can take 4 ground forces. And by the way, the fact that your ground forces, when you lose them, you can roll that. Like I would lose like 3 out of 4, but then I'd lose all 4, but 3 out of 4 I kept because I was able. And so they end up getting back into my home system. But if I had transit diodes, I could just redeploy them back. And I was like, I was after the fact, I was like, why didn't I do that? That would have been so hot because I would have been able to like throw forces anywhere I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, and
the transit diodes is great. That's a great tech. It's yellow, so it's hard to get to, especially if you're doing Soul, who's usually blue.
Yeah.
Blue or green.
I did blue-green on
mine. But it is definitely like an off-color.
But it's strategy. So powerful.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't realize how powerful it was because of the fact that, despite the fact that Josh cut me off from Mechatol, I could still reinforce Mechatol as Soul. And I thought, well, that's amazing that I don't even need to like send a supply line to it. I could always reinforce it. I played it poorly. Long story short, I really played them poorly, and now I really want to play them again. And so after yesterday's game, I'm like, when's the next time I could play? Because I really want to play Soul again and then kick ass with them this time.
Yeah.
And you're right. They're very straight. Strategy type faction. It's like, and you just get a extra command count, which is always amazing. So, and that extra command counter is basically throw it in strategy, and you could boom use it to pop 2 troops. So it's perfect. There are just a few things I wish I had done that I didn't, that I'm now wishing I had, and so there was that. But I mean, for you, I did not see you coming literally across the board. I mean, you literally went like, I was nowhere near. I'm 180 degrees from you, and you went. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, he's in front of my home system. Like, what the hell?
Because I was Joel Nar, man. But anyway, we will get back to that. I just want to do a little short introduction here. From our cold open.
Good. I'm glad. I was wondering, you started recording, and I'm like, are we gonna get into it?
Yes, we're gonna get into it. This is Talking TI with Mo and Chris. We are back. We're doing a little Zoom call to kind of spice things up a little bit. Mostly
I have a war son behind me.
Yes, mostly because Mo and I have day jobs, and we can't sit in a conference center all day.
Yep.
So we're trying kind of, I don't want to say a new format, but a more accessible format. And this, I think, you know, we were talking right before I hit the record button about what we wanted to discuss in this one. And really, I think the theme here, especially from last night's game, which we played at the boardroom, is kind of my kind of strategy theorem of TI, which is kind of winning from second place, not necessarily winning from behind, but I find a lot of games where I end up winning are when I'm second place around what I would call the turn, which is 0.5. And like, not to kind of go right into it, Mo, but you were winning at 0.5.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, so I mentioned this to you, you know, I knew what I was doing. But I also knew it was a terrible strategy. So for our viewers, the interesting thing about last night's game is that I had a friend of mine who was getting into TI for the first time. So I was showing him TI. And I also knew that my wife was going to stop by and say hello. So I was scoring swag points, right? So very early on, I was point leader. And as Chris mentioned at one point, you know, was it round 3, round 2, I was at 5 points. And the problem with being at 5 points in round 2 is everybody looks at you as like, this guy, like, okay, like, how do you know, he's on Mechatol, we got to kick him. You paint a target on your back at that point. And that is not a good strategy because, and Chris, despite the fact that after that I shrunk, I let people take Mechatol and I shrunk, you know, at that point it was too late because everyone's looking at you as the point leader or as somebody who's kind of, you know, and they don't know if you have secret objectives. They think, okay, he's probably mapped out his last couple of points. So the pressure is going to get put on you as the point leader. Meanwhile, anybody who's just, as Chris mentioned, as you mentioned, Chris, you're kind of not coming from the back, but rather you're just kind of coasting, right?
Yeah.
You're with everyone, but you plan the last 3 or 4 points. And that is really the best way to surreptitiously win TI without having to deal with a bunch of people kind of ganging up on you when they see that you're winning. So that's what we're discussing, really, basically. And what I did was I think I transgressed against that rule yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, you did, because there's some takeaways that I kind of pulled from the game. One is, when you get out ahead real fast, people have no mercy.
No, they don't
like
care.
A lot of TI, there is a kind of mercy rule, especially when we were playing. We had a bunch of new people there, and you realize, okay, they're not going to score points, but nobody's really going to like touch them.
That's why you give them the elect player stuff, right? Usually you're like, you know what, they can have it.
But I think it was Michael who was playing Titans, just kind of, he never played before, but he kind of figured out that you got to take Mechatol and you got to do it. He figured out a few good right.
And at one point he gets to point leader and everyone's like,
yeah, exactly. Because he had I mean, he was Titans, but he had a whole thing of cruisers and he just went right into Mechatol and like planted all this stuff.
He just set himself up.
kind of turned and was like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, what happened? Where did this come from?
I thought Josh was going to do it because he was playing Barony and he had this huge fleet, and Josh was like, I don't really want to. And then Michael came in and was like, boom. But that's kind of weird subtext or metagame that kind of goes on.
Yep.
And I think that's how David ended up winning with Hakan. Yep. Was he played a very, very quiet game of just, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna like build my fleet and
he was quiet. He really was quiet about it. Didn't make a lot of noise, just traded whenever he got a chance, didn't fight anybody, didn't get on anybody's bad side, so to speak. And just kind of stuck through. And then, we all, I haven't seen it often when somebody wins where we all just start clapping. For this guy, everybody just started clapping. We're like, okay, hey, we didn't see that coming. Good job.
Well, I think part of it was that it was kind of the game on its surface was me, you, and Josh trying to like duke it out, if you will, because I think we were the most experienced players there. And Kyle. Yeah, Kyle too, but he was kind of, not that he wasn't in the running, but he wasn't fighting over Mechatol.
Just like Jonathan. Jonathan is also usually very good. He also was struggling.
Yeah.
Mainly because he didn't trade supports early enough, and he ended up being squished between you and Josh.
Right.
Which is a whole other episode that we need to do at another time.
Yeah.
Which is about how support for the throne messes with games. But that being said, yes, it ended up being kind of a big power struggle between you, me, and Josh. Kyle wasn't really in it. Jonathan wasn't in it. And then the other guys, we had two newbies, and then this guy who was new to our group but had played before.
Yes.
So he knew what he was doing, but he was rather quiet.
Yeah, and it came down to it. We were, all of us, I think, were in kind of striking distance of 10 points. I would have gotten to 9, but I just couldn't pull out that last point. And then we ended up scoring, and David was like, "Oh, I think I won."
Yeah, and it caught us because and the thing too is we were all like Chris, you were saying, we all were, within 3 point, that striking distance,
right?
But we all expected to get another round, right? I mean, I was looking around. I'm like, yeah, nobody's going to score it, right? There's a 2-point objective. We're all 3 points behind, so everyone's going to score a 2-point objective.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't bank on the fact that he'd be able to score the 2-point objective and a secret objective right away, which he did, and it was so silent. It was quiet because we're like, all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I've got the cultural planets, and here's my 2 point, and we're like, that you got it. Good job.
Yeah, no, but I think that kind of gets into kind of the meta of a lot of the games, which is not necessarily be quiet, but there is kind of a mentality of, if you do pull ahead, people will beat you down. Yeah. And I think at one point it really crystallized for me, and that's why I'm kind of wanted to talk about it, was Josh was at one point, I think he said to you, or he either said to me, he said, yeah, I can help you guys out, but I'm really just, making the second place person into the winner.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Right. And there's no incentive for me to do anything here.
Yeah. And I was conspiring with Josh because he was my throne buddy. I was like, listen, Chris is going to win. You need to take him out. And so he was gunning for your home system, actually, if he had one more round. So, I mean, there was, we were these giants, and we just didn't pay attention to this kind of like little, and that's it. That's TI. That's TI. Yeah, no, it was good. And I think, if there's anything to be said about it, it's that, just being with the pack, and then really planning ahead for those last 3 points, right? And so if you and part of that has to be the secret objective. Absolutely has to be the secret objective, because everybody knows what point you can score publicly, because they see the public objectives. They can look at the board, they can look at what you got, and they could do the mental math. But what they don't know is that secret objective. And that secret objective, as long as you keep it a secret and kind of do it well, so that nobody can suss out what you're trying to do, you can really score with it. Like, nobody expected him to take, because his secret objective was cultural play. It was like control 4 cultural play.
Yeah, I think so.
that's a hard one to keep track of. That's a hard one for somebody to look on the board and go, oh, he's trying to capture all the cultural planets, whereas remember there was at one point he was trying to score same guy. He was trying to score a secret objective, and he was trying to make a deal. He's like, oh, I'm trying to do a thing. And Jonathan was like, well, if you're trying to score that secret objective, you remember that?
No, absolutely.
Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No,
so he gave himself away. He gave away the secret objective.
Yeah.
But that one, the other one he had was pretty sneaky. And that's pretty important for sort of snatching that win without anybody seeing it.
But it is funny. Secret objectives, that is another good topic, because it is funny how there are definitely memorable ones which you can kind of telegraph after you play a while.
Yeah, you telegraph them, right? That's
like,
right. That's
if like capture or what's one, have a ship next to somebody's home world. That might be, yeah.
I thought you had that one because you were. I was like, he's near my home system, but it doesn't look like he's trying to take it because you didn't have any ground troops, and you were just there. And I was like, he's got to have that objective, which is one of the reasons why I attacked you. Right? I didn't attack you because I was worried you're going to try to take my home system. I attacked you because I was like, get the hell out of here. I don't want you to. And even when I attacked you and you ran, you didn't run away. You ran in. You ran into another system that bordered my home system. So I was like, and so I had to look down and then think, okay, should I invest the resources to take him out on the second system? And I was like, no. I was like, the smarter play here is to just let him have the point if that's what he's going for, and I shrank all my troops back into my home system. But I was worried you had that, and that's when I was looking at my buddy. I was like, I think he's trying to score that objective, but I missed the first time to take you out. And so I was like, you know what, let him have it. I'm like, the game is, I don't want to lose over this.
Yeah, no, it was difficult. Look, those, I mean, as a full disclosure, I considered all those ships to be disposable. So,
well, you played me for a fool well enough because you acted like they mattered to you.
I mean, they didn't. Once they were on the other side of the board, I was like, well, they're not coming back unless I tech into the Jolnar tech that allows you to adjacent but pull your ships back. But I wasn't going to do that, so I was like, well, they're just over there. That was one of those things where there were definitely different decision trees that I didn't, not that I didn't have a plan, but it was kind of, at first it was, I didn't want you reinforcing Mechatol because I did want to take it, but then I saw Josh's fleet and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to go back and take Mechatol because Josh had parked like a 6-ship fleet right next to it, and I was like, I'm not doing that. But once they were over there, then there was a secret objective to have ships in wormholes, so I was like, well, that's where I retreated. I was like, well, I'll just park them here and get that secret objective. But at the same time, it did keep you in check enough. You
did very well. And I was mad at you, but I was like, you were playing it right, but I was really annoyed because it was it definitely threw me off my game. Like I'm telling you right now, Chris, I was gunning for a con.
I'm
not going to say I would have for sure won.
No,
but I was definitely gunning for Hakan. And by you coming over, you slowed me down a turn because for a whole turn I just had to watch out for you instead of I was going to take all those ships that I had. I mean, I had a flagship, I had 3 dreadnoughts, and I was going to go for his home system to score those 2 points. And it would have stopped him from winning if he didn't have his home system. So the whole, you changed the game, believe it or not.
Of course, everybody.
And you literally, because if anybody could have stopped the con, it was me.
Right. But see, then you would have won. No.
I don't know. Well, maybe no, because I didn't have, because I only had 2 1-point objectives that were both action phase objectives. So not even status phase. But I was at 7 points. So I still needed to score the additional point, and I didn't have it. So
you would have been in the
even
same
if I
position.
do that, I would have been in the same position. But I did have leadership because I had taken the speaker token. So my plan was like, well, if we're scoring objectives, and if it actually goes to the status phase, I'll be the first with leadership. As long as nobody scored off of Imperial.
Well, that was my plan, was to get Imperial, and try to score.
So I knew that could also happen. So I was
Right.
basically the idea was to be like, all right, who's going to have Imperial? I'm going to try to diplomacy the Imperial aspect of it and be like, hey guys, this guy's about to win, and try to win with leadership. I had a diplomatic strategy. We didn't get there, but it was interesting. That's why, despite the fact that I didn't win, you didn't win, I thought that game was awesome because it was down to the last. It was good to the last drop.
No, it was. I know it was rough at the beginning with the new people, but I feel like after around about 2 rounds, it definitely got its own kind of momentum going.
It did.
And I mean, not to I'm gonna probably get in trouble for this, but not to say that they were NPCs, which they weren't, because
they weren't NPCs, but they were doing very generic moves, right?
Yes, but it
which is understandable for a newbie, right? That's totally, it's fine.
But it
was
really
like,
did, it really did evolve into, just a very dynamic game where there was just a lot, kind of by round 3, a lot was changing on the board, like all the time. So it's fun. I really enjoyed it.
It was a lot of fun. I learned, as I usually do, I learned a lot from it. And this is one of the reasons why we're having the topic we're having today. It's because I keep wanting to say win from behind, Chris.
Right.
When it's not win from behind, because you're not really behind. It's you want to coast.
Yes.
What do we call it? What should we call it?
Well, it's like this. I always call it like the slipstream, or I don't know what the technical thing is, but I know it's in like car racing or running.
Oh, that's right. You're in somebody's draft. What do you call it? Draft. Yes.
Right.
You're in the draft, so that you got the fast car in the front, and you're not actually ahead of it. You're not really necessarily behind it. You're more right in its draft, and the idea is you actually, I think there's something about that, you save fuel or something, or it's easier on the car, and then when you're ready, that's when you overtake at the very end to win. Right? That's what it's called. Like I don't know. I don't know racing terminology, but
it's the same. It's the same philosophy,
idea,
which is the person out front is going to get all the heat. And I will say there is something which I observed in the game, whereas the first and I've observed it in different games. Like this is not the only one, but I was really keyed into it here. Of once that person is marked as the winner in people's minds, people turn a little bit on them.
Right.
They're basically, there comes a point when they say that person's winning and they're not, they shouldn't win.
Right.
And they're never gonna, that's not gonna change during the game. They're never gonna turn around.
Even when you shrink, like I did that. I shrank back into my sort of slice, and I kind of just became really small, like a little, and it didn't matter because everyone was like, yeah, well, Mo's winning,
right? Or Mo was gonna win and now he's not, and that's good, and that's fine. Nobody's gonna turn around and say, oh, now Mo can win.
right. So that's the problem with you catch the heat. You end up catching the heat.
Exactly. It's almost like the first person's gonna catch all the heat, and then that second person, nobody really cares.
Right? They're like, well, they're there, that's fine.
Yeah.
And you need to kind of do that. And I this is probably the second, maybe, or third time where I've been point leader and been punished for it.
It's happened to me. I've definitely had games where I've gotten like way out in front. And by turn, by the time you make the turn on 0.5, the board starts saying, well, Chris is the winner. Let's not make that happen. Chris is the winner.
Right.
And you're kind of sitting there being like, well, I guess, and the times I have won, and they're few and far between, are the times where I've just kept my mouth shut and basically not said a damn thing, and just said, I only have 2 planets, guys. Don't
that's what you did last time.
I was Winnu.
Mister, I only have 2 planets.
I was Winnu, and I sat on 2 planets of Mechatol the whole time, and basically let everybody else take everything in the board. And I just sat there and kind of just did my thing.
Yep. And that won. And he won. Yeah. We won because you were sitting there unthreatening.
Right.
And just kept scoring your points.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say there's other strategies to winning or anything, but I do find the psychological aspect of fairness, if you will, or competitiveness that kind of kicks in.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good try. I mean, I'm definitely going to try that next time. And it's funny I say that because you'll even if you see it, so to speak, like let's say you hear me now tell you I am going to be in the draft next time. But the thing about it is that in the heat of the game, when I'm in that draft spot, even though Chris knows I'm doing that, maybe I'm doing that consciously, he in the heat of the game, he's going to go like, well, he's not the point leader. This guy is. So we all tend to be like, we're gonna screw this guy. We're gonna have to get him off the point bar, off the point lead. So even though I'm doing that, you're not going to come for me because I'm going to be in the draft. So it's a good as a strategy, even if you're public about it. Nobody, you're not going to catch heat. You're just not going to catch heat for being in the draft, right? I mean, that's a good way to put it. Because nobody knows. Like if you're with everybody, but you fought those last 3 or 4, those last 3 points. It's basically how well can you do that without getting stopped, and versus the other ones.
No, I do think it's situational of like when you do secret objectives, like when you take Mechatol. I mean, obviously when you take Mechatol, but and people do have that calculus of I'm not going to take Imperial this round because it's going to bring a lot of heat on me.
I did that. I took Imperial 1 round.
Yeah.
And then I got Josh to give me Speaker, and he was like, he didn't want to give me Speaker because he thought I was going to take Imperial again. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to. And he's like, and you were like, yeah, we've heard that before, And then I ended up being Speaker, so I had the option to be like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm taking Imperial. And I could have scored an extra point because I could have popped it before you guys took Mechatol, maybe.
I think you could have. No, because I
could have.
You could have because I didn't land anything on it. I just went right over it.
But that being said,
had
I taken Imperial instead of whatever I took, I think everybody would have looked at me like, well, he's point lead. He's got Imperial, which means he's going to score Mechatol and an objective and be able to score another one at the end of the status phase. I would if I was already, I was already catching some heat for being point lead at that point. I might as well, public execution or whatever. They would have been like, yeah, Mo,
No, you
public disgrace or whatever. I mean, it would have just been like, who do we do it to? Yeah, this guy.
No, it's true.
I did. Yeah. I didn't pick it because I was like, I'm gonna shrink. I gotta be small right now.
Right. And that is what's funny. And this is probably one of my final points is just the versatility of TI in the sense that you can. And I was looking at the board. And just to bring it full circle, also part of the reason I came over and attacked you, Mo, was because I was not bored, but I wanted. I had an assault cannon. I wanted to
roll some dice, and you wanted to take out.
I did. No, I mean I know it was a jerk thing to do, but I was also like, I could sit here as Joel Nar in my little slice of like 6 planets and just piddle around and get a point here, a point there.
Or I can send 3 ships to Mo's direction and
I can just I got some cool tech. I'm gonna go mix it up a little bit.
You used the soul cannon on me. I didn't like it.
I had it's shit's fun. It's like let's chip some dice and see what happens.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's kind of the dynamicism of like you can go big or you can kind of sit there in your little slice and kind of get little points here and there, and at the end of the day it's either strategy I think works. But
you guys have seen Chris enough to know he does love his space combat. He likes rolling the dice. Well, he literally he enjoys the dice checking and getting chips blowing up and stuff like that. So towards the end of the game he's like, I want to use my assault. I want to shoot some people. And it made sense to come to me because I was winning. And when I looked at him and I was like, Chris, like I've talked about this a lot. I'm like, talk to me, diplomatically. Chris had no interest. He just, and I'm like, Chris, what's
well,
this?
But that was that was me. I didn't want to talk because I was like, I want to fight.
Yeah, and he looked at me. He was like, "You're winning," and I'm like, "So are you?" Like we were tied for points too.
We were.
But at that point, I took it for the spirit. It was.
No, it's fine. And
which is like, hey, let's have some juicy fights here. See what happens.
Yeah. That's fun in the end too. So.
Yeah, it was. And you saw my thing. I was like, oh, I'm retaliating.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have to, but I was like, no, you can't just walk into my system like that. It was good. It was fun. And even I'm telling you, TI is one of those games where even how often do you win? Not often, but when you don't win, it's enjoyable because you think about it, you go, oh yeah, that and this and that, has the war stories aspect to it. And then, like you said, we were before we started recording, Chris was talking about how he couldn't sleep last night because he was thinking about all the things that you wanted to, that you what is it that kept you up, Chris?
No, I just kept thinking about all the different strategies. Like I wake up every hour and be like, oh man, I should have built War Suns and like done War Sunny things, and not that I had a really fun game, and it wasn't kind of, oh, I'm disappointed I lost, but it was more like just the I don't know, the intensity of TI sometimes.
Yeah, it was intense. And by the way, you're the only one who scared me, because I made a huge mistake, which I thought, okay, I've got a ton of troops, nobody's going to be able to take me off or whatever. And I didn't think to build any PDSs because I was like, do that. And then Chris gets X89 bacterial, and I'm like, oh crap, like I didn't account for this, And like the only PDS I got was towards the very end of the game, when I put it on my home system, because I was worried, because I had like 8 troops on my home system.
Yeah.
And I was like, if Chris goes in there and wipes all those out because he's got this X89 back, I'm gonna really feel the heat. So I put a PDS there, but you're the only one. You're the only one who really threatened me at that point because of that. So
yeah,
it's huge, so for example, if anybody plays Soul, I already know now. If I find somebody playing Soul, I'm gonna want to be Lizix and get the X89 bacteria. At that point, I am that person's threat, right? Because you can't stop the bombardment of the Lizix, right?
No.
You can't.
Yeah. I mean, Soul's interesting, just as a total tangent. But I really like when I played him a few times, I just love getting the Carrier 2 with Fighter 2 and Infantry 2, and just kind of having these cheap, almost kamikaze fleets that you can, just send into people, and just, even if you lose like half your fighters, you still destroy like, most of their fleet. So they do have
never
some
thought
fun
about that.
Oh
you
don't
even use capital ships, huh?
No, you build cheap fighter, you get Carrier 2, Fighter 2, and theoretically Infantry 2, but
I had Infantry. It's Infantry 2 for them is the Spec Ops. It's like
Spec Ops,
it's the racial.
But it's a total blue-green path, but it is fun because it is literally kamikaze. You just take your fighter loaded up with 8, 4 or 6 fighters and some infantry.
Man, I didn't do that. I want to do that. Why didn't I do that?
Because it's a different game.
It's a different game. Yeah,
it's a different game, but it is what I've done once or twice. And even if you lose, again, you can lose up to like 6 fighters. And you still,
and Genesis holds like 12. So you load it up with fighters, and you walk it in there with a bunch of carriers full of infantry and fighters.
Right. Yeah. And then you can just
literally play it again. I want to play Joldar again.
I know.
You're killing me.
No, you mean Soul.
Or Soul. Sorry, Soul. I want to play Soul again.
Yeah. No, it's fun because you can. And they're also cheap as hell. So you just make a lot of these little like kamikaze armies, and
I didn't get Carrier 2 because I didn't think about Carrier 2 being, because it has more capacity.
It has sustain too, which is awesome.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I totally did. But I did get Fighter 2 and Spec Ops.
Yeah.
So I had those. And the funny thing is, if I had Carrier 2, Fighter 2, and Spec Ops, I would have scored the 2-point objective.
Yeah.
Oh man, I could have told. Oh, Chris.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I could have. That was it. That was the strategy.
Yeah.
Why didn't even I do that?
Because it's different. There's different. That's what I'm saying. Every race has different strategies. Like I went
playing them again, Chris.
Yeah, you should. I really love Soul.
Again.
Like I mean, Soul's a fun race to play. I was Jolnar, so I just went, which I never really do, but I went blue, just straight blue with.
You usually like going red tech with Jolnar.
I go red. Like I'm a red tech person, and that's where I was like, maybe I should have gotten War Suns at some point, but the blue let me go literally across the map into your home world.
Literally, yeah. No,
within a move or two. So it was interesting. It was very mobile.
Yeah, so you're right. So I was actually, so I started, I don't know if we had started recording when we started this conversation, but I was talking about transit diodes.
Right, right.
And I had I didn't have any yellow tech, so I didn't have transit diodes, but I thought about it after the fact. And I thought, man, if I had had transit diodes, it would have been very interesting as Sol, because of the fact that, every time I would lose a unit, I could roll for that ground unit. I could roll for it, and if I get a 5 or above, I would keep it. And so that it would land back, it would come back to my home system. And with transit diodes, I could literally send it off to any planet I control. So it was a very interesting idea for me to think, hey, why didn't I do that? But the problem with transit diodes is it's yellow tech.
Yeah. No, it's an off color for Sol.
It's an off color for Sol. So despite the fact that it's very powerful for Sol, it does take them away from what they're good at bread and butter wise, which is, blue and green tech. Which is what I did. I did blue and green tech. But it's an interesting question. It's definitely an interesting question for Sol. Yeah. I was looking it up right now. I was just looking up, whether that's something that people tend to do. And I noticed it's not something that people tend to do. But, some of these kind of like unique approaches to a race can sometimes be really kind of meta. They're not meta, sorry, but they're they break the meta in a good way.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. I'm not a big blue purist. I think everybody goes, very hard on blue. I'm a red purist.
Yeah, you are. You tend to be.
Pretty much, because I think Assault Cannon fucking rules. And then you can, get War Suns and everything.
Yeah.
But it does once you start to get, and I think this kind of brings it back to Jolnar, who I had all the tech all the time. But just some of the fun things you can do with the different techs, like, transit diodes is definitely a fun one for any infantry faction. I think, who is it, a Yin, you can make really, really good use of them with transit diodes, because they do build into yellow. But you could definitely do an infantry game with Sol.
You could. I'm reading that basically for Sol, red and yellow, they're saying just don't go down. Even if you have red, like they're saying, even if you have red skip or yellow skip, that you just don't do it. Use the planets to build more is what they're saying. So I guess it's not it's not considered a viable meta strategy for Sol. But that being said, me, I like weird stuff. I like right. So I've always wondered what it would be like to have a game with. Now I'm wondering what it'd be like to have a game with Sol and transit diodes. Would that be more annoying? I don't know.
It would be. Well, there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, I mean, imagine yellow. You got Sarween tools,
right?
Right. So that means you can make more for less, and not that you need to, because troops are cheap anyway.
Yeah, but you would build basically you would use Sarween to build bigger ships. Your dreads, probably take your dreads, go conquer some planets, and once you have those planets, you can kind of start sending your infantry out to kind of reinforce them.
It's an interesting strategy, but it's unique. I actually think, as unique as it is, I think the blue green with the carrier 2, fighter 2, and it's just more fun. It's just more Sol.
Yeah, it's what Sol's built for.
It's what they were built for.
Don't get me wrong. There are other factions that do make use. I've gotten transit diodes. I think with Yin, Mahat, you can really make use of transit diodes too. Basically, if you're going to be building into yellow, you can. It's a good stop along the way. Yep. But to go really out of your way to get it is not. I don't know.
It's not ideal. But that's very very interesting. I don't know how we kind of segued into Sol strategy, but it's cool because I'm very interested. That being said, I don't know. Do we have any more in the that we want to talk about on the main agenda or the main topic of today's podcast? Or
no, I will just say that playing Jolnar is like walking on air.
It's just too easy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't win, but it's like there's just no stress towards.
Yeah.
I think I was just like, yeah,
they are a no stress faction. They are percentage wise. I think they're the highest win rate.
Winu actually is the number
really?
one.
I thought it was really,
but I could be wrong. All these.
I thought it was Jolnar.
It could be Jolnar. I mean, they were always they're wonderful. But they're basically you get to do anything you want all the time.
I haven't played them yet because they are. I don't tend to play the factions that are like this. Is like I haven't played Titans. I haven't played any faction that's like they win. Yeah,
I mean that's actually. I mean that's as we. That's actually another good topic, which is different faction. There are definitely factions that we shy away from. Mostly
Titans,
because Jolnar,
SAR, yeah, like they wanted to ban SAR yesterday. We're like, come on, we're playing. We're playing. It's just an adult game here. We're good to go. Right. We're fine.
Yeah. No, I know, and that's where I this is a totally different topic, which I think maybe we'll
Power 6 we talked about this.
But but even the Power 6 or just different faction power levels and how that affects kind of the perception of the game.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think every faction but for Titans has its strengths and weaknesses. So,
wait, you think Titans? So you think Titans really are the two OP?
No,
that's
what I think everybody agrees. Like it says Hell Titans or whatever.
No, that's right. Yeah, they're too powerful. They're too powerful. Yeah. So I haven't played Titans yet. I haven't played Jolnar. I haven't played SAR. I haven't played these like incredibly powerful factions. I mean, I know how strong they are, but I haven't played them because I kind of like playing the underdogs.
Yeah, I agree.
When you told me the Muat are like super hard, I'm like, I'm playing Muat next.
Right. And you did good, but that's the thing though. I like going back and forth where I'll do the Muat and be frustrated as hell and be like, this action sucks. I hate it. And then I'll play Jolnar and I'll be like, man, this game's easy. It's
easy. I gotta try Jolnar. Every time you talk about playing Jolnar, you're just like, you just never feel squeezed. You're just like, yeah, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, no, I literally had every blue tech. Like I had every blue tech. And that was by turn 3. I was like, great, I have lightweight. I didn't use half of it, but I was like, well, I have anti-mask and dark energy tap. And I'm going like 4 spaces across the board. I'm like, And then after that, I was like, well, maybe I'll just get some yellow tag.
You just do whatever you want. Like,
right. I was like, I got it, guys.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, cool.
Good. So what do we, before we close it here, what do you think, what should we look forward for our next game? What do you think we should make our next, or ideas for our next, what our next game should be like?
I think it's kind of up in the air. I mean, we'll definitely, I think I'm very happy with the Zoom. So we'll try to get more episodes out on a more regular basis.
Regular basis. It'll be a lot easier this way for sure.
Yeah. And we'll change it up a little bit. We might have a 14-point game coming up in a little bit.
That's right.
So that'll be a topic.
Maybe I should do Soul for that one. No, or should be. Yeah,
I'm really thinking about for that one, man. Then
I thought about being Jolnar for that
technology. You literally have every one.
I might do it, Chris. I kind of want to play Soul, but for the 14-point game, yeah, you're gonna be Necro.
You're coming right behind you
for the 14-point game, being Jolnar, because then I'll definitely have War Sons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody. Yeah.
And then we could see how well War Sons hold up against Dreadnoughts.
Yeah, and all the tech. But no, we there's definitely a bunch of topics. I think we've touched on some of these on the call. But I'm hoping we can play another game, in the next few weeks. We will have another episode out long before that.
Yeah.
But I do like the Power 6 topic. Maybe we'll do that one next or something like that.
For the 14-point game?
Oh, God.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. All
right.
Well, thank you. This has been another great episode, Chris, and look forward to next time.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.